we have a really exciting, well, to us, it's really exciting. This is one of our favorite features. So we're going to be doing our Q&A today, and we'll be focusing on unconnected clients for our deep dive. And just to give you a little bit of context in case we are new faces to you. So we started this business because we each had our own before, and we both fell in love with doing the workflows and the system setup and all that kind of nerdy stuff. So we started Hughes and Strong just to be able to do that. So we really pride ourselves and really it's important to us to figure out what everybody's needs are and figure out something different for the person in front of us, because we always hated the it's one size fits all, this is the best, or this is the one way you should set it up. That's not really the case. So for us, it's really about kind of customizing and figuring out how Keeper and your systems can work for you. And that's where we're going to walk through unconnected clients today. And that's going to be the main thing is take away what you need, but definitely customize it to you. So really important thing. We try not to should on ourselves here. It's really easy to put additional pressure on yourself and be like, oh my gosh, there's so many good ideas. I should implement all of these. Put the pen down. Let's all figure out what we need in this season for us. Definitely take inspiration, but do not feel like you have to use all of these ideas in order to have the perfect keeper setup. So just be careful about putting additional pressure on yourself. Use all of this for inspiration, but definitely options, not more that you need to do, especially in this season where we're all going into year end. Use some of these if you don't have another spot to use this in Keeper, but don't put any additional pressure on yourself for sure. So the way that these Q&As work, in case you haven't been to one before or these are a little rusty for you, we're going to do a deep dive into unconnected clients. So we're going to talk you through what's possible, what the heck is an unconnected client, and we'll definitely share some exciting like common uses that we've seen, as well as some really creative ones that we've seen in the community that sparked a little bit of joy of like, oh, I didn't even think about that. So we'll share all about unconnected clients. And then the rest of the call is going to be open to any and all questions about Keeper, features you haven't been able to explore before, or I'm not sure how to get this system to do the thing I want it to, and we can troubleshoot with you. So open call after that. But as you have questions, please throw them into the chat so we can kind of go through them sequentially and make sure everybody gets their question answered. One thing that's really important to us on these calls is do not let us blow past and go way too fast and leave you in the dust. So everybody's coming into this call using Keeper for different amounts of time or to different like amounts and what you've used Keeper for and the functionality. So if we say something that is a way unfamiliar term, or you're like, wait, how do you even do that? I'm not sure where you would set that up. Let us know. Again, throw that in the chat so we can stop, take it back a step, and make sure that we're getting you everything that you need to on this call as well.
Well, let's dive in. As Erica mentioned, don't hesitate to ask questions. So you do not have to wait till the end to put your questions in the chat. Feel free to add them anytime they pop up for you. But as she mentioned, we're going to be looking at the unconnected clients today. So connected clients, those of course are the ones that are connected to the accounting software, whether that be QBO or Xero. They actually have that integration, that connection to pull in the data from the accounting software. But there's a whole lot that you can do for clients who are not connected, or you can use an unconnected client for a variety of reasons, in a variety of ways. So unconnected clients, they're here to help you keep track of all tasks for all clients, and you're not charged for them. So there's no charge for that. The charges come when you connect them, or you and start using like receipts or additional features within Keeper. But you can do unconnected clients at no charge, and you still have access to all of these things. So your client details, properties, of those sections are available. Non-closing task sections, that entire area is available for use. Your custom closing sections, those are going to be like your pre-close, additional items, or any other ones that you might create. Those will all be there. And the things that won't be are the ones that pull in from the accounting software. So that's like your transaction review, payee entity review, financial reports, those types of things aren't there. But you still have access to the portal as well, which is really exciting and very, very helpful. Within the client portal, you have access to the whole thing except for those transaction questions. The transaction questions come directly from the accounting software. We pull that data in. So of course, if it's not connected, you won't have access to those things. But there's a lot that you can do with Unconnected. So we're going to give you guys lots of ideas about that as well. First, let's start with how do you even add that? Just like you would add any client, you're going to click on the plus client button at the top of Keeper. And here you have the option to connect them to QuickBooks Zero or just to add them as unconnected here. You still have the option to choose from templates, enter in your access roles, notifications, all of that is the same. You just click unconnected here at the top, and then you can move forward with adding that client. So what does that client page look like if it's not connected? What you'll see is those areas that are unavailable, transaction review, payee entity review. Again, those are pulling from the accounting software and bringing that data in. So you're going to see a notification here that says this is an unconnected client. So that data is unavailable. Outside of that, it's going to look just the same as any other client. And within your client portal, you just won't even have that tab for transaction questions. Normally it lives right here next to non-transaction. For those unconnected clients, it's not even visible. So part of, oh, go ahead, Erica.
I was just going to say, this is actually one of my favorite. It's a tiny little tip. Most of us may or may not use this, but if you're on your client list and you want to see just those unconnected clients, or on the flip side, see all of your connected clients on that client list that you get when you first log into Keeper that has all of your client names and the task sections, you can go up to that little filter icon. There's lots in here like client communication and frequency and stuff like that. But one that we wanted to highlight is you can check on the unconnected and just see those unconnected clients. Or, like I said, vice versa, if you just want to see your connected clients. So, this is one that showed up in the last couple of months. So, we wanted to make sure to highlight that if you are on your client list, there's a really easy way to filter this.
Yeah. And now that we know that unconnected clients can exist, what are some of the ways that we can use them? So a lot of common ways are during an onboarding process and you don't have that connection yet, you don't have that access to their software yet, you can still begin the onboarding process and get your client set up, start adding things into Keeper there. So that's a very common one. Another one is to bring in all of those clients, even if they're not using the software that can integrate with Keeper. That could be QuickBooks Desktop, Sage, any of the others that are out there. You can still have those clients inside your Keeper to keep track of your tasks and the various work that you need to do with them and use the client portal, even though they aren't integrated with their accounting software. And then another popular one is a single service client. Maybe you're only doing one small thing for them and you don't want to pay to have it connected because you don't really need that connection or have all the data imported in. So you could set it up just for that one service that you're providing for that client. Now, some creative ideas that we've seen are using one as a test client or a training example for new team members. You can also use it as an internal admin dumping ground for tasks and things that you want to do. There's a lot of different ways to get into it, and we're going to show you lots of examples as we move forward, but these are just a few to get us started. So what this can look like. So here's another idea, diagnostic review for prospects that are coming through. In your non-closing task area, you can have tasks that are just associated with what are the steps that I need to do for that diagnostic review. You can house those in an unconnected client.
And this can be really helpful. Maybe we don't want to connect them just yet because they are not technically an ongoing client. We may not need all of the sections. We may just do that review in QBO. But having these tasks where we can set due dates and have them with all of our other tasks so they don't get lost or we don't have to have another system completely for our diagnostic reviews can be really helpful. This also means that it's really easy to connect if that client does come on board. So, this is one of the more creative uses that we've seen here recently, but we've seen more and more people start putting their diagnostic review tasks and start using unconnected clients for those that they're doing diagnostic reviews for.
Mhm. As I mentioned earlier, onboarding, maybe you don't have access yet, or you're just not ready to connect it yet. You can still have, similarly to the diagnostic review, all of your tasks in here to help you keep track of that onboarding process. What do you need to do? What are the next steps? Things that you need to communicate with your client. And again, use that portal if you need to be gathering information during this onboarding period. You can still use those non-transaction questions to gather information.
Yeah, and I see this a lot if maybe we haven't done a diagnostic review before we started onboarding this client, but now we're onboarding, we need to start keeping track of our tasks. What have I done? What have I not done? Because that gets a little bit fuzzy. And I want to start requesting those documents from the client and giving them instructions on how to connect QBO. We don't have to wait until that connections comes through or that access comes through. We can start getting all of our bits and bobs set up and start requesting those through a secure portal and definitely connect that as we get access if we need to.
And if you do end up wanting to connect them, it's really easy to do that at any point. So at the very top of that client page, you're going to see the button to connect them. So from here, you'll do the same setup screen as if you were not as setup screen as adding a new client, but like you still see the where to connect it. So you log into that accounting software and select that client and it plugs it right in. So adding that access is very easy to do at any point once you're ready.
So
So
now let's get into a few that are still in the common realm, but outside of onboarding. So for those of us that have clients that are in a different accounting software, again, we may not want to have Asana or Monday or ClickUp or a whole another system to keep track of those tasks, especially if we have contractors working on those. We can still keep all of these. We're just going to use those non-closing task areas or use pre-close or additional items instead. So we can definitely still have our workflows in here and keep track of those due dates and those clients, even if they're not connected or the capability is not able to be connected.
mhm.
So here's
This
where we're starting to get into some of those that are like the service only. So we may not be doing all of the bookkeeping, month end or anything like that. But if we're doing payroll, we can absolutely just have a payroll section. Maybe we hide all the other sections that we don't need, like our year end or anything like that. We can still keep track of those payroll only tasks here inside of that client as well.
and the real benefit for doing this is so that as you're looking at your client or your task list for the week, all of these extras are included in there. As Erica was saying, you don't have to have a separate system and then have two different to-do lists. This just allows you that ability to have it all in one place. CFO only client, tax clients, all of these things can have their own section if you want it to, or just their own set of tasks, again, so that you can have it all together in one place.
So here's an example of a tax client. So this is Kate actually mentioned that a lot of her clients are unconnected tax clients. This is what that would look like. So this can be stacked on and using this section if we have a connected client that we're doing taxes for. But if we also want to keep track of tax clients that we don't do any bookkeeping for, or they have their own bookkeeper or they're doing the bookkeeping, we can still keep that in its own section and just utilize the sections that we need and those tasks that we need to keep track of for this client.
Yeah. Kate also just mentioned in the chat, so I want to throw it out there as well. She's absolutely right. You can put templates into non or unconnected clients. So that whole template section, being able to, all of those diagnostic reviews, the onboarding, the tax service-based tasks that you do, all of those can be templates and easily dropped into unconnected clients as well. So that also helps where you don't have to reinvent the list every single time that you have a new one pop up.
So this is where we're going to get more creative. So again, use what you need, throw out what you don't. But a lot of us have been in another system like Asana, really good example, where we can keep track of clients and our own tasks and our own work and our own projects all in the same system. Now, in Keeper, we can use the firm task area, but that's visible to all of our teammates. That may not be the most beneficial. Either we don't want to bog our team down with all of our random brain dumps because that can get overwhelming, or we may have more sensitive tasks that we want to kind of create our own little space for. But again, may not want to have a whole another system for those that we got to keep track of this in both places and may want to keep track of due dates for some of those more internal tasks as well. So this is where we'll start to share some of our more
Mhm.
creative that we've seen, that we've played with, or that we've seen utilized within the community.
Right. And as Erica mentioned, firm task area is visible to all team members, regardless of their user status or their user access. So that's standard users, managers, admin, super admin, everybody can see all of the firm tasks. That is an area that has a lot of feature requests out there. And I know it's on the roadmap somewhere for that to become more robust and have some more flexibility. But until then, this is a great workaround to limit the visibility. Now, these unconnected clients, you can give access to them to anybody, of course, just like any other client, you can put any team member on it. Admin users will have access to all clients. So that is always something to keep in mind. So this does limit visibility, so your standard users aren't seeing them. I forgot to check Erica about managers. If I think
I was
I don't
actually
remember if
gonna I did a
managers,
little bit of
yeah,
research before. So, admins can see all clients across the board.
always
Managers are
will.
now
Yeah.
that new role where you can it's a little bit kind of in between. So they'll only see clients that they're assigned to, but they will be able to see anything, timers or anything like that that's involved with those clients. So a lot of us are shifting to where we may have a couple admins on our team, but for those team members who need more than a standard user, but we don't want to see all the internal clients or my internal brain dump, we can now make those team members managers instead to have a little bit more of that window of visibility.
So yeah, this just helps you to have a little bit more control over who sees what. So here's an example, your own business tasks, things that you need to do to run your own business or projects that you have coming up. Tasks for a VA. So if you have a admin assistant, a virtual assistant, something like that, they could have their own unconnected client with a list of things that they do on a regular basis for you.
This is one of my favorites that I've seen here in the community is starting to use these for just reminders about marketing or any BNI tasks or anything like that that you're going to have to do. You can always play around with a specific section that you only use on this client or a tag that you use for these tasks to make it a little bit more organized for yourself, but definitely ways that you can play with keeping track of some of those, like keeping the business moving and moving forward and growing. Those tasks can also live in Keeper too.
Other internal projects that you might have. Some people like to have a dumping ground for those big ideas that they have or little things that they need to get done when they've got time. So there's all sorts that you can put in here for your internal projects as well. And then another popular one or something that's growing in popularity is having a space to put where your prospects are. So maybe you don't want to pay for a big fancy CRM. You just really need a way to kind of keep track of leads or people who are interested in your services. So you could have an unconnected client where you can put in their contact information and make notes about where they are and add tasks that you want to do for them to follow up with them or schedule calls, all of that. So that is another one, again, that is starting to grow, I think, in popularity.
And one of the things that we've heard on a call here recently and kind of troubleshot with somebody is, okay, do I create an unconnected client for all of my leads? Because that may get to where it's massive, both on the client list and in our timer, because all of those are going to show up as individual clients that we can choose from. So what we kind of troubleshot or as a workaround is you could have like a project that shows your prospects have a task for each one. That way you can keep notes on them, have a little status on them, set a due date for a reminder you may need to send. But that kind of works as an in between where we can have even a template that's a simple task that says lead name, has some of the other like pieces of info that you may want to keep track of on that task for that lead. And then if they go on to book a call or a diagnostic review, maybe that's when we start adding them as an unconnected client. So this is a really interesting workaround that we've seen here in the community and start building traction. In case it wasn't super clear when we were talking about this, any of these clients, unconnected or connected, does allow you to keep like time tracking for that project or that client. So this can be really, really helpful too. If I want to keep track of my time in sales, or I want to keep track of my time in BNI or on this internal project that I'm working on, that makes it really flexible to where I can start using that and tracking on that instead of having to use just the like admin workflows that may or may not be quite as robust on that side.
So we've gone through a whole lot of ideas very quickly here. So now's the time to start getting those questions rolling in. What questions do you have specifically about unconnected clients? I know we've got some in the chat that we'll go ahead and start addressing. But beyond that, if you have questions about any feature or any keeper question, please feel free to go ahead and start throwing those in the chat as well if you haven't already. Now is the time to ask away.
Yep. So we'll answer any of these questions about unconnected just so we can make sure everybody gets their question answered while we're still on this topic. And then feel free to let us know if you have questions past this and we'll kind of shift gears. So Jody, I've got a couple queued up for you.
Okay.
So
Do you want me
Tina
to jump in the
asked,
demo?
yeah, let's do that. So while you were getting that set up, I'll go ahead and read Tina's question. So if I set up a client as a non-connected for like, let's say a specific service, can I then convert the closed template to a monthly setup? So it sounds like the question is, can we then add on kind of that bookkeeping closing area? Or do I need to have the client disconnected on the back end and start over if I then like don't use it for bookkeeping? So I think two questions here. Tina will answer these, but definitely let me know if I missed something in translation. So, first part of that question, we can definitely have an unconnected client that we then become a client. So we connect them, we add our closed template, and we go on our merry way from there. So it's really easy to take a like payroll only client that then becomes a monthly bookkeeping client and convert that. Now, Jody, I need a little bit of clarification. So I'm going to kind of pass this second half
Mm-hmm.
over to you. If we have a bookkeeping client that then downgrades to payroll
Mm.
only, what would that look like? Any ideas on that?
Yeah, that'll get tricky. Because if you want to disconnect them from the accounting software, but you don't want to archive them, that's kind of a gray area right now. You would need to ask Keeper if they're able to disconnect them from the back end. Um, they've got the archive feature in here now to be able to disconnect and move forward. I have not tested
Yeah,
it though, Erica. If you archive it and then unarchive it, does it automatically reconnect?
Yeah, that was a good question that we can kind of test out and send some further clarification on.
Yeah.
I did get clarification from the support team that we can at least write in and kind of give them our situation with that client of, hey, I had a bookkeeping client that's now doing payroll only. is there any way that you can disconnect it on the back end? Because I still want to keep all of my notes and everything for this client. So if you write in with that situation, they may be able to give you more clarification on, yep, we can disconnect on the back end, or they may shoot you toward, hey, archive them and then unarchive them, and that should work. Because I'm not 100% sure and I want to give you the best answer there. So that might be a really
Yeah.
good support question, but I would give them full context about what's going on with the client so that you're not hitting the roadmap of, well, we definitely recommend archiving, because that may not be the best in this situation when the client is still staying with you. They're just not staying on with bookkeeping services. So that may be a really good support question. And just while we're on that topic, in case anybody is newer to Keeper or doesn't know how to reach out to support, that little blurple, purple, blue button in the very bottom, hit that, ask a question. So up at that very top, you can also record your screen if there's something goofy going on that you need to be able to give a visual behind. But that ask a question goes a long way, and then we'll get you over to support. So that's the easiest way to get in contact with support if anybody's unfamiliar with that.
Mhm. Okay.
Ooh, as I'm going through, Tina had a really good suggestion that I want to kind of share with everybody. So, Tina created an unconnected client for employee reviews or private messages. I've also seen this for like feedback questions from your team. So, creating a client that's called team feedback, and maybe you create a task that has a due date, is assigned to that person, and has some questions that you'd like them to answer back either in that notes, like checklist in the bottom, or as a comment back. So, really good idea there, Tina. All right, next one up. Kate asks, will managers be able to assign templates? So, good question. I did double check on the um, Help Center article. So, Kate, I'll go ahead and mention that article in case you want to dig deeper or anybody wants to dig deeper into that. But upon first glance, it does look like managers still have access to templates and can still add, apply, edit, and delete templates. So, short answer there, but definitely feel free to dive into that help article if there's more that you'd like to know about managers. All right, next one up from Kate. So, can that prospect client be assigned tasks or questions with the Gmail add-on? So for anybody that's not familiar, this is for Gmail only right now. There is a Canny request out for other platforms like Outlook and stuff like that. But right now there is a Gmail add-on or extension that you can have to where an email that comes in, you can assign like or create a task or something like that from that email in Gmail inside of Keeper. So we can definitely do, from what I've played with, you can use that to assign or create a task within that client. So as long as it's a client like that prospect pipeline or that diagnostic review client, you can definitely do that.
While you're looking for the next few questions here, I'm just going to go ahead and show where and how you would do that unconnected. So we showed you the
Yeah.
screenshots, but I just wanted to give you guys the look through it here as well. So up at the top there, clicking on client and then scoot all the way over to unconnected. And then you can still choose what you want in here. You can preview what that's going to look like. You can still choose a specific template. So if you are onboarding or doing a diagnostic review or cleanup or whatever it might be, you can still select those as well. And of course, you can copy from existing clients. So all of that's still the same. If you have a resource, you can do that too. Same. Here's where you can decide who has access. So if this is something that you're setting up for internal purposes, admin use, you'll definitely want to make sure that you select which users you want with that. Now, by default, all admin users will be listed here and you will not be able to remove them. So admin users will always have access to everything, but then you can choose additional users if you want to and make those assignments if that's something that needs to be done for this client. And then you just add it, name it. Now open it up and you'll see that you've got access to the majority of the features that we've talked about. Do that later. You go find it. With my team resources I just created. So within that, you can see you've got your client portal is available, client uploads if they import anything for you, your portal settings. You can still do email reminders for them, assignable questions. All of that is still available with those unconnected clients. And then all of your sections here for tasks are added in. And like we mentioned, you'll see very clearly what's available and what is not available for use. And then if you have a template that you want to drop in at any point, you can do that. It'll take any of them. Of course, any of the templates that might have that are for the transaction review, you can try to apply them, but of course, it's not going to apply anything because those aren't available for those clients. Okay, that's just a quick look at it. What's our next question, Erica?
Thanks, Jody. I appreciate you filling in the gaps in our live demo in case some of the screenshots didn't quite paint the full picture. So really appreciate you there. All right, so we got a question from Amanda. So her biggest struggle with Keeper is still the task list. So she's made the task list for her subcontractors more manageable, but hers as the owner is still really overwhelming. So how are we using the task list when we sit down to work? So really good question there. I'll happily pop in, but I'll let you kind of take the lead on this one.
Yeah. So absolutely, for admin users, this list gets extremely overwhelming very quickly because you're seeing every single client, every single task, regardless of who it's assigned to. You get the full picture, which is a lot of information. So for admin users, we strongly recommend to lean into the saved views options. So you can create that saved view or break it down for your client or for your subcontractors and those users. You can do the same thing for you. And what you set up is going to vary based on what information you need to see. So are you checking on where a certain contractor is in their work? How many overdue things do they have? What's still outstanding? Like where are they in their process across all their leads? You could have a saved view set up for individual contractors. If you are coming in here as an admin doing just payroll, you could have just a payroll saved view. But filtering is the best way to reduce the overwhelm in this area. And knowing that you can have as many of these saved views as you want or need it can really be helpful. So that way you can just pinpoint the very specific thing that you need in that moment. Trying to find a good example.
Yeah,
Here's
and
one.
while we're
Yeah.
exactly. So I think one of the biggest things to think about, like taking a step back from this question and just kind of approaching it from a different angle is for us having one big long task list that's multiple pages, way overwhelming. It's way too many things at once. So a lot of times for us, it's like, what do I need to be looking at in this moment? Am I in manager mode where I need to check on things that need review from my team? So I need to filter by the task statuses of stuck, right? Or in this example, what else does my team need to look at and gather before we're ready to go into month end close so that I can help those team members identify those areas that are still lacking? In a different example, maybe I need to run payroll, right? That some of those higher risk that I still may be doing. So maybe I make a payroll view for myself. Um, or maybe I make a projects view because it's my day where I'm in CEO mode and I'm doing more project work, or I'm in sales mode and I'm doing some of that work. So I would say a lot of us are starting to use more and more saved views. And these saved views don't have to be visible to everybody on your team. You could create a private saved view that's just for you. And I've even seen people get really creative with the way that they name them to help give them priority order. So, first, check for things that are stuck. Second, check for anything that's due on my plate for my client work. third, maybe I'll go into sales mode or onboarding mode, right? So you can prioritize or name those however you want. But a lot of us, instead of having one long task list that gets really hard to prioritize, we'll start sectioning that into the different um, like brain modes we're going to be in or hats that we're going to be wearing for that day. So sometimes that can help as well. Awesome. So ready for the next one, Jody?
Yeah, let's do it. I was just gonna add, if you are still struggling with like, I don't know how to set up these save views, or I know what I want to see, but I'm not sure how to configure that, reach out to us. We love helping you to troubleshoot those ideas and getting those views that you need.
And even figuring out like, how do I get it to do this one thing? Like, what filters do
This
I
one
need, or
thing.
how do I get it to show this that I need? That's our most fun is the troubleshooting stuff. If you couldn't tell, it's the more like, okay, if it's not technically available, how can I get it to do what I need it to do, even if we have to take like the backdoor route to get there? So you're always able to kind of reach out to us with specific needs. And we do have a previous Q&A recording all over saved views. So if you want some
Mhm.
inspiration on what some of those views may look like or how to set them up at a base, welcome to go on the YouTube channel and kind of like look through that as well.
Awesome.
Alrighty, so next up, Shaylin would like to make notes for a reconciliation. So for example, on a clearing account, waiting for payment to come in the mail. Is there any way to do this? So I've got a couple ideas, but go ahead and share your first impressions, Jody.
So for example, I'm trying to think through her question, for example, on it. So making notes on the actual, if it's a specific transaction, I would use the notes feature. Um, so here's a reconciliation area, an account. And then each in that you've got your full register here. And if it's something to where it's on hold, it's waiting, you can always add comments here for your internal comments of what you're waiting for. If you need it to be more visible, you can also update the description with a note to say, hey, we're waiting on this to be paid, or whatever that note might be. And then once that's resolved, you can adjust this and remove that note if you no longer need it. So those would be a couple of ways I can think of how to add those notes for a
Yeah,
like a
and that's on
clearing
the
account.
transaction level. If it's on like an
Right,
actual account level, let's also cover that as well. So you could
right,
also use a comment on there, right? Really easy way to give yourself kind of an overview or a heads up about what's going on. If it is at the account level or something with a task, to make this example a little bit more broad, we can always use that task status as well. So this may be one that you play around and either add a custom task status or put something that's a little bit more generic on like waiting, um, may resolve soon or something like that. So you could definitely play around with a task status, a comment, updating the description if it's a transaction or combination of them. I would say this is one to kind of here's some of the possibilities and live test it and see what's going to work best for you to give you the best visibility while also making it easy to search. So sometimes that task status can be really helpful.
yeah. And this appears to be a newer update here, is being able to add in a description or notes right below the account. So if you click on it to open it, you've got add description. So you could also put notes in there. Again, you can always take them out at another point, but that would be another space to add a note if somebody's coming in here quickly at a glance and being like, why is this one still not done? You can also include those notes right there underneath that account name.
Yeah, really good mention there, Jody. Thank you. All right, so next up, Miss Ellen, is there a way to tie in a drop-down date property, so a custom property, with a due date for a repeating task? So example is a client with a property of September 30th for the financial year end date needs to trigger that update in a property. So I don't think this one is possible to tie those two together. I think those are separate areas, and those date drop downs in the custom properties are separate and a separate choice. Is that what you understand, Jody?
Yeah. Yeah, this sounds a lot like we we don't currently have any dependency capabilities yet. So if this happens, do this immediately. The only thing that I could think of, this would be if they're both custom property, would be like playing with Zapier, to see if there's something in there, like if this status changes, update this. But the specific thing you're talking about, I do not think that that's an available feature yet.
Yeah, and Jody, let's fill in the context in case anybody's a little bit
Hmm.
unfamiliar with this. So if we go to just the info section on this client, we'll have way too much in here. So don't expect all of this. This is our play account for sure. But if somebody was using a financial year end date or a next run payroll date or a sign on date or something like that, we can update a property to have a date value in there. But at this point in Keeper's history and feature ability, we can't tie that to a due date on a task, which would be lovely. That's definitely a
That would
really
be
good
amazing.
Caney request, because then we could have the next recurrence date update that property. Right now, I don't know any way to do that at this point. They are
Mm-mm.
manual to update those properties, but great Caney request. And if you make that feature request, send it to us so we can send it out on this video recording as well, so everybody else can upvote as well. Beautiful. All right, ready for the next one, Jody?
Yep.
All right. So Emily has a template question. Love template questions. So I was trying to add a single task to all of our clients in a specific section, and I couldn't figure out how. Am I missing something obvious?
Yeah. So if this is like, let's just go as basic as we can. I've got one thing I want to add. I wanted to add to everybody, and I want to do it quickly. You can come into your templates area here, click new template, name it whatever you want. And then let me move my thing out of the way. We'll use an example in a non-closing area. So you'll add the area that you want, then you'll add that specific section that you want to add. So maybe we'll just do general. Type in the task that you want, whatever details you want. So you put in everything that you want to be added to that client. If you want, you can also set this due date at this period. You can assign it to whoever you need to, whether that's a specific role or a specific person. So you can do all of this here to get that task ready to go. And then once you're ready for it to be applied to all clients, you would come here, click apply to clients. And then if it is truly for everyone, you can select all clients here and then click apply, and that will add it in. So make sure that you really want to, yes. And it'll take a moment to load. We put that in the non-closing area. So I'll go back up to that. And you'll see right here, new task for all clients. That'd be the simple and fastest way. Now, if it is, I'll go one step further here. If this is something that's like, okay, I want to add a new task to my template as well, but I don't want to reapply that template to every client that already has it. I just want this to be added in. The way that I personally would do it was just like this: add the one task, add it to everybody, and then I would copy and paste that to whatever template I want it to live on so that it's with the rest of those tasks, so that next time it gets applied, it already has it in there. But yeah, for one-off things like that, I would just create, even if it's a temporary template and that you don't keep, you can still do that as a way to mass apply a task.
Awesome. Thanks for filling in the gap of like, one, how can we add this to all clients if we need a stopgap of like, hey, I just need to add in this task,
Yeah.
and kind of giving everybody the context that really good best practice tip if it is something that you're like, oh, duh, I need that for all of my future clients too. Add it back to that main template that you drop in when you have it client as well, so that you're
Mm.
covering both bases and you don't have to keep using that stopgap. So Jody, let's pause there. I've got a couple more questions
Mhm.
queued up, but I want to kind of, in case anybody needs to start wrapping up and heading to other calls, I want to kind of give them a couple of those last minute pieces.
Yeah. So one thing, tomorrow, if you have not heard, Keeper, we're partnering with Keeper to do the first of a Game Changers webinar series. So features like this, like the unconnected client feature, we're going to be going into and sharing several other underrated Keeper features that can make a big impact on your business. And that is tomorrow. So we welcome all of you to join us there as well for that. And we'll put the registration link for that in the chat for anybody who wants to check that out.
And it is last minute, so if you're not able to make it live, if you register, you will be able to get that recording as well. So don't
Yes.
fret if you can't make it for live, but this is a series specifically to share all of our favorite bits and pieces that we're like, people need to know about this. So we've paired with Keeper
Yeah.
to actually start sharing some of these specifically. So definitely one to check out if you're able.
Yes.
And then, as always, we're here for additional support. So we specialize specifically in Keeper on all parts of the spectrum. So if you need somebody to come in as an excited cheerleader who knows about Keeper and can give your team best practices, we can absolutely do team training. Some people have set up Keeper, but they need another set of eyes and they're like, am I doing this right? So we offer diagnostic reviews. And then all the way through, we do offer templates and support if you want to DIY with a little bit of help so you're not starting from scratch. Or if you want custom hands on setup and you're like, all right, here's what I want. I need somebody else to do the clicking. We can do all of that kind of along that spectrum to just meet you wherever you're at. So feel free to reach out to
Mhm.
us if you do need some amount of support with Keeper beyond just inspiration and sharing new ideas.
And we will get to all of the questions that have already been asked. But as Erica said, we're getting close to time. We've got about 9 minutes left of our scheduled time. We will stay beyond that to continue to answer questions. But if you have other meetings, other things you need to hop off, go ahead and do that. We will be sending out this recording as well. So you will get all of the information no matter what. But with that, let's go
Yeah.
ahead and jump back into the demo and into more questions.
Yeah. I've got the next one queued up for you if you're ready.
Go for it.
Beautiful. So this one is in context with like those transaction review and payee entity review
Mhm.
sections. So just so you have some context, and specifically the expense inconsistency report. So there we go, kind of zooming in on where we're going to get
All
to.
right.
We have some new clients in 2024 where we categorize items differently than the previous bookkeeper. So they're all now showing up as
Mm,
inconsistencies, and everything is 2023. Like that's where those inconsistencies are. So Julie's wondering, is there any way to remove or exclude the 2023 transactions from showing? And this is probably a good time to just talk about those exclusions list and kind of see what we can
mhm.
figure out both on the 2023 and kind of share a little bit more context as well.
Okay. Let me go into an account and a close that actually will have data in it. So bear with me as I shift there. For those who may not have been using this report yet, the expense inconsistency, very much that is trying to help you find, oh, hey, you had this transaction categorized this way in the past. Are you sure you want to categorize it in this way? It's a great way to catch those things that have been accidentally categorized in a different place. But it also can be cumbersome if you're like, no, really, I want to change it to this new way. And now I don't want to see the historical. Um, Again, let me get to one that actually has some data in it. We'll let that refresh. Um, so we do have the option for exclusion lists. That can come in handy. Let me get back in here. Okay, so now we're in the expense inconsistency. And it's only showing me one, but that's enough. So just a quick overview of this. You click on the button on the side here, and it's going to show you those historical transactions, and it's going to highlight the ones that are different. So we've got it set up for office supplies. It's been office supplies 83% of the time. but at other times it's been categorized something different. What's correct? So you can see here when it was which one. And then you can make your decision of, yep, this is good. I'm going to just mark it as reviewed and done. I don't need to do anything with it. If it's something where I don't want this to come back up again, you can click on the exclude button here, and it's going to ask you, okay, do you just want to exclude staples anytime it says office supplies, or anytime it says office supplies and it's $50? So you have this very transaction specific exclusion option here. So you can do that on the transaction level, but you can also come up here to edit excluded list, and you can exclude by an entire account, event specific vendor, the type of transaction it is. And then also you can include like what's listed in the description or just by the vendor account. So this you can do at a bigger level, a grander scale here. And I'm going to check one more thing. Here you can decide whether you want to do all or year to date. So this is where you would come. So that's this little settings cog here. And you can choose, I want year to date. I want to stay in this calendar year or this fiscal year. That should help prevent all of your 2023 from being considered. So I'm going to select, well, I'm in 2023. I don't think I have anything in the 24 yet. But anyway, that should, in theory, take care of that unique case that you were talking about. So hopefully that helps.
I'm glad we could kind of help troubleshoot that one. Definitely reach out, truly, if you run into like you try that and it doesn't work. We can definitely get more creative and kind of play around with you. But I would try that first. Just so anybody else knows, we did show some of those exclusions. There are other areas of Keeper where you can adjust the sensitivity as well. So sometimes if it's reading the exact same, like duplicate, I believe customers,
Customers
sometimes
and
if
vendors.
okay, beautiful. So customers and vendors, like if it's reading all of these as the same when they're not, adjust that sensitivity. Sometimes that can really make a big difference. We don't want Keeper to get in your way and push data that you're like, dude, stop. You're being ridiculous. Don't let it annoy you. So always change that sensitivity if it's categorizing these things as the same when they're not, or it's like you're not even showing half of this stuff. Play with that as your first guess. Don't let Keeper be the bug here. Let it be helpful for you so that sensitivity can really, really help. Or excluding things that you don't want to see over and over again, or a specific account that you don't want it to factor in, can really help make these reports exactly what you need out of them.
Mhm.
Alrighty, ready for the next one?
Yep, let's roll on.
Cool. Ellen has a question. So, is there a way to bulk delete a template added to clients? So, I'll give you the first step of this. So, at this point, there's no way to say, hey, I added this template, delete it from all my clients or delete it from these couple of clients. So, short answer, no. But, Jody, I'll let you show how you would go about deleting those
Yeah.
tasks and kind of collecting them.
So exactly. There's no way to say, okay, all of these tasks that were in this template, I want them removed. Can't do that. But from the task list, this is the only place you can do it. From this task list, you can bulk delete tasks. So what you would have to do is maybe you have a split screen and you've got that template open on one. So you see, okay, this is the section, this is the task name, and you can pinpoint exactly which ones you want to remove. Then you can filter your list by that. So you can filter by, okay, this is where the section was that I want to do it. Maybe you do it incrementally depending on what was in that template, or you can include all of it. Totally up to you on how you want to do that. But you would maybe select the templates or select the sections here, and then you can also start typing in and pinpoint the task name and select those specific task names there. Once you have that filtered list down to those templated tasks that you want removed, all you have to do is select on the side here. Once you've selected one, that bulk template or bulk actions comes up. So if you select more, you can do that. And then right here, delete selected tasks. That is the fastest way to bulk remove tasks, the only way to bulk remove tasks, but definitely the fastest way to clean up some of those old things that don't need to be there.
Yeah, and Ellen, I would implore you to use specific close. If it's on like a 2023 or something like that, you can play with the close, you can play with the section, the task name, or tags. So it's not showing on this view, but you can go show that column as well if all of them have a specific payroll tag or something, for example.
Yeah, here you go.
Now, I will say, if this is one that you're getting stopped on and it's a larger project or you just don't have time, reach out to us. We do custom projects like this all the time to help kind of fill in those stop gaps of like, okay, I can tell you what I need done, but I just don't have the brain space or can't figure out how to get everything on this list. Reach out to us. We're more than happy to help and kind of either give you best practices or help take that load off of you as well. So if
Yeah.
there's something like this that comes up and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is the only way to do it, don't fret, just reach out to us. We'll see if we can help. Okay. Awesome. So that's at least all the questions in here.
Okay.
We are at time. So if anybody does need to jump, thank you for joining us and spending some time with us
Yes,
on a
thank
Wednesday
you.
before a holiday. We do not take that lightly. So thanks for spending some time with us. I hope you're able to get some inspiration or get a question answered.